Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Kick MMA, episode 247. I am Brendan. 2023 PFL numero dos. All right, we are going to cover the second event here, breaking down all the fights. We're going to cover top to bottom. Larissa Pacheco, Julia Budd, Bruno Cappelozza versus Matheus Scheffel, Olena Kolesnyk versus Aspen. We're going to cover all the fights here, including the early fights. And just cover them all in one video. We're probably going to do two or three videos on the UFC this weekend. So real quick, before we start breaking down fights, if you like that kind of stuff, you like fight breakdown, subscribe to the channel so you know the next video is coming out. I do 2 or 3 videos every single week breaking these fights down. All right, let's get started. Okay, Larissa Pacheco taking on Julia Budd. So Larissa Pacheco is the champion from last season. Now, she was the champion at 155. Okay, 155 pounds, not 145, which is the weight class that this took at featherweight. So Julia Budd is the former Bellator champion at featherweight. She's been around the sport for a long time. She's obviously a little bit older, but she's still in great shape. She looked good in this fight. I just think that her time, her fighting style and her time is past. The fact that she's still able to hang with these younger fighters is a testament to her preparation, her training, and her... it's not like she's ageless, but it's one of those things where it's just because she keeps training hard and she stays in shape, it has allowed her to extend her career well into this newer generation of fighters coming up. So she won. Pacheco won by decision here. Not according to the AI scoring, but we will talk about that. So Pacheco pressuring hard. She lands, but Budd was managing to go 1-for-1 with her. So Pacheco, the entire fight, she was on the forefoot. Budd was always backed up to the fence. That's the thing. Budd was doing okay, right? She wasn't throwing it back enough, and Pacheco was landing 1s and 2s all day in this first round, but Budd got the takedown after landing a straight of her own. Budd was on the top until the end. She didn't do too much with it on the ground. On the feet, Pacheco didn't land anything really damaging either, so this first round could go either way for me, but I gave it to Pacheco. I felt like she did more damage, so I had her up 10-9. Then Pacheco was walking her down again with the same 1-2s, identical to the first round. Budd landed a straight of her own really hard, so that was the best strike that Budd landed the entire fight, was that right hand. Pacheco was trying to throw more volume strikes, and she is landing a little bit, but Budd was actually landing the better strikes in the second round momentarily, all right? Then Budd went for a takedown, Pacheco rolled through to reverse, and then she got on top, and that's how the round ended. So that was, a minute and a half of control time for Pacheco, and that round was relatively close leading up to that point, even though it could have gone to Pacheco anyway. Clearly, Pacheco's round 20-18. Pacheco landed more in this last round. She was throwing more volume. She appeared to stun Budd with a left hook. Pacheco was on the back, after like an awkward entry along the fence. Budd ended up on top with 150 left, and then she got reversed with 120 left. That last round was Pacheco for sure. I didn't even have it close. I had it, overall, it wasn't close, 30-27. 2 judges saw it that way as well. 1 judge had it 29-28, which is acceptable. Honestly, do I think Pacheco is the best fighter in this division? Maybe. I mean, I'm not going to try and compare across all of the sport because I think Amanda Nunes would probably beat her. But this division, Julia Budd, as good as she isn't the best fighter. It's just that she's in incredible shape, right? She doesn't hit the hardest. She's not the best grappler. She's just strong and she's good all over, which allows her to stay in fights and outwork some people who are maybe coming up, or maybe they have a strong ground game and they can't get her down, or they're used to being the stronger fighter and they're clearly not this time. There's a lot of situations that her athleticism and just physicality allows her to come out on top. This was not one of those cases. Pacheco's pretty strong, right? I've made it known before. It's pretty obvious that she's done some sort of supplements in the past, and it's caused the physical changes that we see and we hear mainly here with a lot of female athletes, and it's permanent. And I don't care about it, but it does make a difference going forward, right? When you have athletes who are clearly enhanced or have been in the past and who aren't. I mean, look at Cyborg. It's the same thing, right? Clearly she had done it in the past, and whether she's clean now or not, I don't really care. It's not about that. It's just something that it does. It's just like saying, oh, well, she's been training in jiu-jitsu since she was 10 years old, so she has 20 years of experience with jiu-jitsu. Oh, well, she's been on the gear for the last 10 years, or she was on the gear for 5 years, 5 years ago or 2 years ago, and that's just a part of her development. And clearly she's, it has worked really well for her. She obviously won $1 million last year and beat at 155 beat the women's 155 GOAT, whatever that means. I mean, I don't know how many women there are fighting at 155, to be honest. Good win for her. Only gets 3 points because she couldn't get the finish, but it's still a win. A win's a win, and she puts 3 points on the board for this season. Okie dokes. Bruno Cappelozza versus Matheus Scheffel. So this is a rematch from last year. This happened when Scheffel upset Cappelozza pretty bad. It wasn't close, to be honest with you. Scheffel just went in there, worked his leg, and Cappelozza was the 2021 champion. So it was a big surprise last year seeing how easily dispatched he was by Scheffel. This fight was pretty good. While it lasted, Bruno was using his jab well. There was a left and a right from Scheffel landed, but he was getting outpointed at one point, and then because he was following Bruno around, and Cappelozza was able to really capitalize on that and use his volume strikes to keep Scheffel at bay. And then Bruno landed a right hand that put Scheffel down, and that was the end of that fight. It was actually pretty incredible. It was a great right hand for him right here. It's just right on the button, just pop, and down he went, and then he follows up, and the fight's over. So that was a great win for Scheffel, really bringing back a lot of that energy and pretty much not erasing what happened last season, let's put it that way, because I don't think you can erase that kind of thing. But I will say that it definitely it re-establishes him in the heavyweight division as a legitimate contender. Not that necessarily went away last year, but it could have been one of those things where, like, was he overhyped? Did he get, was he a streaky fighter that just got hot at the right time in 2021, or is he legit? I think he's legit, and I think Scheffel is the guy who got hot at the right time last year, catching Cappelozza by surprise, both in the fight and expectations-wise. So, moving on. Aspen Ladd versus Olena Kolesnyk. I'm going to be honest. I'm not a fan of Ladd. I've never been a fan of her. She was one of those UFC hype jobs. Her attitude of her just being like, oh, I'm the next thing. I'm great. Missing the weight problems that she had. I just never been a fan of her, so I don't think I'm ever going to root for her unless I see some significant change or I see that, some mentality shift or something. I just don't see any of that. Olena was doing a decent job early, staying at range. And, Olena did miss weight, but it was by 0.4 pounds, but 0.4 or 10 pounds, you missed weight. So she actually only, because she did get the win here, she only got 2 points instead of the 3. I still think a split decision win should be worth less points than a decision win. It would have kept some people out of the playoffs last year, arguably for the better. Olena was doing a decent job early, staying at range, landing the jab and straight, both she was landing the straight as a lead, so she would throw the jab out, but then she would also just throw a naked straight. It was great. She was landing on Ladd. Ladd wasn't able to do much. Ladd slipped on a kick, and Olena landed on her as she got up. So as she got up, Olena punished her. Great job taking advantage of every situation. Ladd started to even things out near the end of the round, not getting hit as much, but it was Olena's round. So I had a 10-9 Olena. Both women are out of range for most of the part when they do move in range in the second round here. Olena was able to land and counter if if Ladd does land something, Olena was countering. So Ladd attempting a takedown and getting stuck in the clinch and then gets taken down herself. Then they get right back up anyway. Ladd was waiting in, looking for a takedown. She is landing no damage. Olena reverses and landed a knee to the body. Lad had some momentary control in the second round, but she did no damage. So this second round goes to Olena. I had her up 20-18. This last round is what makes it interesting for Lad. She was walking her down, throwing punches in the air like an idiot. Like, she's just throwing punches. Nobody's in range. She might as well have been on the other side of the octagon shadow boxing. That's how, or the cage, shadow boxing. That's how bad this was. It was asinine. It was horrible to watch. It was incredibly amateurish watching her throw those things out there. It really brings down, like, it. I know she's just pumping out her arms. I just don't. When she's doing that stuff, I think it brings the sport down. Because watching it, you're like, you can tell that they're not at the level of some other fighters in the sport. Lad finally got a takedown with 2:45 left and worked her way to mount. She did a great job on the ground in this last round. It just wasn't enough for a 10-8, right? She had some, she was threatening for a rear naked choke. She was threatening for an armbar at one point, and she definitely won this round 10-9, but it just wasn't it wasn't enough. And then another interesting thing that happened for this, the fucking clappers went off, and the clappers go off for this fight, meaning there's 10 seconds left, and the bell didn't go for another 22 seconds. So the round went on an additional 12 seconds. That's horrible. All right, that's very unprofessional. I can't believe that the production team, whoever's in charge of that shit, let that happen. The commission, whoever it is, it can be dangerous, right? Because now you have that internal clock in your head, and I know you're supposed to fight until you're told otherwise. But if you know there's 10 seconds left, you might go for a position, right? We saw it in the T.J. Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt fight. In the first round, we saw when the 10-second clapper went off. He got real aggressive, and TJ did, and he moved in, and he put himself in a position to be countered, and he got hit really hard and almost knocked out. Now, had the round not stopped when it was supposed to be stopped, we could be talking about like a follow-up of like 5, 6, 10 different extra punches that he didn't need to take, affecting the rest of the fight. And how do you account for that? That's incredibly dangerous. I really hope that never happens again. I've never seen that before. Not that bad, maybe a second or here and there, but I've never noticed it. This one was egregious. It's totally unacceptable. You can't do that stuff. Biaggio Ali Walsh versus Isaiah Figueroa. So Ali Walsh, obviously the grandson of Muhammad Ali, he looks good. Okay, I said this last time. I think he looks good. I think him being involved with the PFL is more publicity than he likely deserves at this point. But I think if it's good for the PFL, then what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So I think it's good for everybody, and I'm okay with it. That being said, the guy has skills. It's not that he's not skilled. He absolutely is. You can see right here, when he lands this right hand, like he landed this multiple times in the fight, and that was the last one that put him out. It was incredible. What a great right hand. He's super strong in positions. He's quick. He's got, I don't want to gush too much because he's still an amateur fighter, but the guy has skills. He really does. And I know you can say, oh, well, they're putting him up against people that he should beat. Absolutely he should. And that's good. And he's beating them convincingly in the way he should. And he's showing skills that are indicative of a developing and possibly he has enough raw talent and ability and the way he moves his body that it looks like if he sticks with it, takes it serious, and puts things together and doesn't get spoon-fed until he runs into a wall, he could develop as a real contender. Let's put it that way. I don't want to be too grandiose because, like I said, he's still an amateur fighter here, but he's very good. Very good. All right, Renan Ferreira versus Rizvan Kuniev. Okay, they were trading kicks early. So obviously, Renan Ferreira's the really tall one. He's like 6'8". As a big dude, but Kuniev's not a small guy. He's 6'4". So he was able to hang in there with him. and do some good work. Kuniev was on his way into a takedown, and then they ended up going into the clinch in this first round. Big left hand from Kuniev that rocked Ferreira, and back into the clinch with knees to the body. That was Ferreira's kryptonite, really. He was just controlled so well. Rizvan was able to do pretty much everything he wanted. He did more in this first round for damage and control, and he controlled most of the action. So I gave it to him 10-9. Second round, Ferreira tried a jumping knee, and Kuniev took out the back leg. Then he ended up on top because of that. That's the other thing is Renan, he has this habit of making rookie mistakes, right? He'll throw himself out there, and I'm guessing in the past he's been rewarded for it. So like he'll catch someone who's not expecting it, like with a flying knee, or he'll, sacrifice position, which he did multiple times in this fight, and come out on top because, he's bigger and stronger and he's able to do that. And in one point he actually reversed him. We'll talk about that too, again, because of his physical attributes, but it only gets you so far. And here's the thing, at heavyweight, it can carry you to the best of the best. He's just running into guys who are able to deal with it, and he's running it now. He's not able to walk through them. Rizvan was on top in that second round, but Ferreira, like I said, he reversed position by walking along the cage. He repeatedly tried an arm triangle that wasn't there. So there was no, he attempted an arm triangle. He kept trying to go for it, but he kept ducking his head under to try and get under the arm and putting himself in a bad position. It's not a good way to finish the arm triangle. You can do it. It's just not a strong position. He wasn't able to get it. Ferreira attempted an armbar that wasn't there, and now he was on bottom again, looking really tired. Kuniev ended the round on top, laying out some damage. It's a close round because Ferreira did no damage while on top, and he wasn't close to the submission, but he did have that control. I gave it to Kuniev again, but it was really close. I had it 20-18. Third round here, Kuniev was pressuring again. They separate momentarily. Kuniev was landing some hard shots. So he landed, every time they would separate, he would land some good shots in tight. Ferreira tried to hip toss and ended up on his back again, yet again making another mistake. And Kuniev got him back down, and he worked his way to mount, laid out some ground and pound, winning that round easily, and the fight, in my opinion, 30-27. He does get the win here, but it is a decision, so that is 3 points for him. Some decent fights on this card, by the way. Danilo Marques versus Yorgan de Castro. What the heck? Why do they have this here? Do I have this out of order? Yep, sure do. Marcelo Nunes. My bad. Oh, good grief. Marcelo Nunes versus Maurice Greene is the fight we're going to talk about. Nunes in on a clinch early, not doing much, but pressuring. Greene is landing a couple strikes here and there. Maurice Greene looked better in this fight than I have ever seen him look. He didn't quit whenever he got into a bad position. He kept working through it. He didn't let the fight be dictated to him. He got all the positions. It looked great for him. Nunes tried to pull guard and nothing happened. Greene was throwing hard, but his jab was the most successful shot. So every time he would swing hard, he would overswing and miss. But when he was snapping the jab out there, it was landing nonstop. It was really good. Nunes went at the legs and the body with the kicks. Greene was landing a nice hook to the body, then a teep kick that hurt him to the body. Body shots against the cage. He was doing a really good work with that. Nunes got the takedown, but he didn't do anything with it. Greene was still landing a straight and a right behind it, and Greene did way more damage in this first round, 10-9. And then a great hard clinch knees from Greene, and he's landing at range with the hooks. Greene had him against the cage, and then he finishes with a barrage. So Greene ends up getting the finish here, which is a great win for him. Like I said, this is the best that I've seen him look in a long time. You can see here, Nunes wants no part of this, and he turns away, and he's basically calling quits. Great performance by him. I'm happy that Greene's he found a home here, and he's able to be successful without going back to the UFC. He can find a home and make some living. Buy all those materials for crocheting. Danilo Marques versus Yorgan de Castro. Now we'll do this fight. Again, never been a fan of Yorgan de Castro, especially after his last fight. It's just the guy stands around a lot. He doesn't do much, and he just swings big looping hooks. It's one of my least favorite fighting styles to watch because, yeah, it can lead to a flash knockouts, and you can see these things once in a while where it's exciting, but most of the time it's just really boring. Like if they fight for 15 minutes, 14 minutes of it, if not more, is just standing around. Marques with the kicks to start. He went low, and then he went deep, and then he went high, and he was keeping the distance with those kicks really well. De Castro was swinging for the fences with every hook. De Castro only landed a jab to the body and a low kick. He wasn't able to get in range. Marques took the first round by staying on the outside and kicking 10-9. I had it. The smart case, so the AI had it pretty close in the first 2 rounds. I didn't think it was that close. I don't think De Castro did anything. Like, obviously, Marques didn't do a whole lot by basically staying safe, but Yorgan de Castro didn't do anything. The kicks from Marques were still the best and most consistent attacks. Castro was only landing jabs to the body, and he landed a few leg kicks of his own. Another round from Marques, landing with those kicks. It's kind of boring. And then his last round is the exact same thing. It wasn't the most exciting fight to watch, but Marques gets the win. And you got to figure, there's a strategy here. Right, there's a strategy here in the PFL because you're going to have to fight 3, 4, 5 times, possibly in a matter of 6 months. Okay, so you're going to have to fight really often. How is that going to change the way you approach a fight? How is that going to change the way you fight when you're in the cage? Because you can't just go for broke all the time, every time, get knocked out, and then what happens if the commission says you need to? Yeah, you might play it a little bit safer. You might have a smarter game plan where you try to stay on the outside, win more decisions that way. You might try to be in control of the fight so you're not using up a ton of energy and you don't build up a lot of injuries. You can see a different fighting style. I don't know if that's necessarily played out in mass in the PFL. I still think there's relatively exciting fights, which we'll talk about next. It's just there's just that has to be taken into account. It does, because you're fighting way more often in the PFL than you would be in most other organizations. Unless by choice, right? If you want to compete more, a lot of other organizations will find a way to get you a fight. And here, you have to. And I like it. I like that it's different. Martina Jindrova versus Amber Leibrock. Man, she got knocked out hard, huh? This one was bad. This one was hard to watch. Leibrock ends up landing a hard head kick with the left leg and puts her out. Then she proceeds to dance around like a hoodlum for a while, which I wasn't a fan of. But hey, she's excited. Yeah, she gets to do what she wants. That right there, boom, beautiful head kick right on the jaw. It was a beautiful kick, beautiful performance, great strike. There's nothing wrong with what she did. She's very tall for the division. She's 6 foot tall, and I mean at 145, you're looking at Megan Anderson, who is another 6-footer that I can think, but it's not a common height for women, let alone female athletes in MMA, especially because of the weight classes. It's just great win for her, great knockout. Let's see if she can stay on her feet against some of the grapplers in the division. Evelyn Martins versus Karolina Sobek. I don't remember too much about this fight. Yeah, Sobek got the takedown. Oh, yes, I do. It was just takedown. So Sobek got the takedown early, and that was the whole round. So that was 10-9 for her. Martins with the takedown in the second round, and at 3:30, back on the feet. Martins landed the better shots in the clinch again. I gave her that. Martins? Yeah. I gave Martins a second round, 19-19 going into the third, and then clinch back and forth with Martins gets the takedown with 145 left. When they got back up, Sobek tried, but it wasn't enough. So Martins gets that win via decision. It was really just control. Who got the takedown and who controlled. That was it. That was the whole time. And then, very first fight on the card here, Marina Mokhnatkina versus Yoko Higashi. Marina was landing the big right hand as a counter. Yoko is not moving her head off the center line. Corner was saying, sweep the leg. She was in on the clinch, and you could hear her corner saying, sweep the leg. And I could not stop laughing. I went back and had to play it again to make sure I heard it. I did. They said, sweep the leg. And I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, let's go. Marina with the takedown. Another one dealing out decent short strikes and taking the back and cranks on the neck until the end of the round. It was all her, 10-9. Then in the second round, Marina got the takedown into the crucifix and TKO finish. She just looked like she's on another level. Higashi didn't look like she belonged in the cage with her. That's not a detriment to her. It's just maybe it just wasn't her night, but based off what I saw, it just didn't look like she belonged in there at all. It was a great win for Marina. So that is it for the PFL. If you're looking for the UFC stuff, that'll be coming up in the next couple of videos. I'm covering that this weekend as well. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. If you like this kind of stuff, if you like this video, subscribe to the channel because I put out a lot of content like this every single weekend, 2 or 3 videos covering MMA, breaking down fights. So I'd appreciate it if you did that. And if this is the only video you watch this weekend, thank you so much for stopping by. It means a lot to me, and I love y'all. Have a great week.